Hey guys, happy Saturday. A quick update for you on the one OTC speculative ticker that I am trading right now. The ticker symbol is RLAIF. If you're trading on the OTC in the United States, the main listing is in Canada under the ticker RAIL, R-A-I-L. 10% gain on the week. Closed last week around 50 cents. Closed this Friday at about 55 cents. And this ticker, if you have been following my other videos, is a speculative bet on an upcoming acquisition that the company is doing. I don't have any other DD for you other than I have a bullish bet that the market will look at that acquisition favorably when the next step is announced. I can't guarantee you that I will be correct, so make your own choices. Don't follow my trades. In this video, though, I want to talk with you about the one thing that we can talk about this week, some new data, a new filing from the company, a monthly report. Every month in Canada, companies got to report any material changes on a Form 7. So let's pull that filing up and see what changed over at Railtown. If you don't trade Canadian companies or you don't read filings, let me just catch you up. A Form 7 is a monthly report required in Canada, as it says on the form here, intended to keep investors in the market informed of the issuer's ongoing business and management activities that occurred during the preceding month. And the things that must be reported on the monthly report would be any material information. It's basically just a check-in once a month while we're waiting for the usual quarterly reports. A nice little extra bit of data that you can get on Canadian companies. It is worth noting, if you want to start looking these files up for yourself, that you do need to go to the Canadian regulatory websites to find these because they are not reported on SEC Edgar in the United States. Here at the top, the very first information we have from Railtown is an update on the share count, now just under 143 million shares. That is compared to the last month's number of just under 139 million shares. So they went up about 3 million shares during the month of July. This is a very short form. This video is going to be very quick. The second page of data talks about how many users they have on their platform, what work they are doing on developing out the software. Management's continuing to exercise oversight over technical work and corporate matters. And then towards the bottom, we get an update on those shares that were issued, how they went out. And 1.2 million here on the bottom were a private placement. Those went to Quantum and generated $600,000 Canadian for the company. And they had warrant exercises for an additional 1.6 million shares, bringing in 478,000 Canadian. So just over a million Canadian of liquidity added in the month of July, but the share count did go up 3 million. Now, you guys hear me talk a lot about non-revenue or pre-revenue or money-losing companies needing to dilute or going concern warnings. We're not going to focus on anything negative about it. It's just a fact. These companies need to raise money to keep the lights on and keep the salaries paid. And that is just something that you need to be aware of as you're making your trading decisions. The other thing that I think is interesting, when these shares are being issued and the share price is reaching all-time highs like it did in the middle of July, and then the price goes down and people are telling you, the promoters of all of these stocks, no one's selling. You don't know that. You don't know that someone's obviously selling. And it could be that someone executed warrants that cost them 15 cents and decided to go ahead and take their profits at 68 cents. That would be a very reasonable move to lock in some pretty massive profits. I do not like to hear these promoters telling you guys over and over, no one is selling. That is a very, very misleading misinformation. Every trade, every buy has a sell. Every sell has a buy. Someone was selling. Is it related to the shares that were issued in the private placement or the warrants? That I don't know. But there was some downward movement in July, and in my book, it's reasonable that maybe some of those newly issued shares were sold off, providing some extra selling pressure and pushing the price down. The nice thing is, in the past week, the price is going back up, and with an extra $1 million of liquidity on the balance sheet, the company probably is not going to need any extra cash in the short term. There is a file that I use to track the ongoing dilution over at Railtown. They have doubled the share counts over the last 2 years to raise money, and that's fine. That's what they're in the public markets for. But it's something that I track if I'm investing or watching a pre-revenue company, the rate of dilution. And really what this chart shows us is the rate of dilution over the last 8 months is very low. And you guys might have heard me talk about that on previous videos, that I think management is doing a reasonable job of not overly diluting shareholders in the process of generating liquidity to keep the lights on. There will be always ongoing dilution in companies that don't have revenue, but in terms of some of the really bad players that we've seen out there, like a Mullen, this is a very reasonable execution by management, keeping dilution to an absolute minimum. If we add up all of the potential warrants that could be exercised, the fully diluted common shares of Railtown would be 172.5 million. As I just said from the Form 7, the current share count is just under 143 million, with 26 million of those being warrants with very low exercise prices. Railtown doesn't really have control over when those shares get added to the float. That is up to the warrant holder. I don't penalize companies when lenders or whoever they gave the warrants to, brokers, exercise those warrants. Like I said, they don't have any control over it, and it does bring money into the company. But as investors, this is something that we want to keep in our top of mind awareness. How many warrants are outstanding and what are the exercise prices? Are those exercise prices under the current price? And is it likely that if the price pushes up, that some of those warrants could be exercised so the owner could then get shares and sell them for a profit? Now, promoters will always tell you they're exercising and not taking a profit. Maybe, but that's not how I look at it. I look at it, if they're exercising them, it's probably to flip them because the price is at an all-time high, kind of like what happened here in July. The only point here is it is good to understand what could happen and then weigh that against what is happening on the chart, so you can put 2 and 2 together, and you don't have to create theories like they're creating synthetic shares or someone selling something that doesn't exist. No, someone got 3 million shares in July and the price went down. I think it's pretty likely on a thinly traded stock like this to presume that there was some extra selling pressure as those 3 million shares got moved from whoever took the shares into someone else's hands. Extra selling pressure will drive the price down. And then that selling pressure appears now to be done, and the price was allowed to go back up. So that is good. Hopefully it will continue to go up. And like I have said on the past couple weeks videos, I expect, as long as there is no news, that the stock will bounce between this demand zone and the supply zone. So like 40 cents up to 66 cents. And we're just waiting on news, good or bad. We'll decide on the next direction of this stock. This is a stock that is going to move on news. I can't tell you which way that news is going to go. I have every reason to believe that the companies are both diligently working to get this acquisition done. And I have every reason to believe that it will be done in a reasonably short time frame. But I don't have any guarantees for you. So that is my update this week on Railtown. I still have my position. I'm still long, still crossing my fingers that they come up with the next step and that it is a acquisition announcement that is favorable enough to common stockholders that the market allows the price to go up. And we will find out when that next news drops. If you have any questions or comments, drop them for me down below. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see ya on the next video.